of the things I want to talk about today is not only how to identify narcissistic abuse, but also how to get yourself out of this situation, as well as how to start healing from it. Because I know that it can be very um, hard for people to even start to understand what narcissistic abuse is. Some people don't even realize that they're actually in a relationship with someone who is toxic, who is abusing them in some way, who is also using them in some way, who is also entertaining other people in the background, and you completely have no idea because they manipulate so much. Okay? So, growing up, sometimes you find yourself in a situation where you're in a caregiver situation where your caregiver is constantly devaluing your emotions, or your caregiver doesn't listen to what you're saying or doesn't acknowledge your feelings. So that in turn sometimes makes us into people pleasers who feel like we have to um, perform. Sometimes it makes us like people pleasers who feel like we have to perform and to be able to get the things that we need. And so when you're a young adult or you're a young child, you're trying to get your caregiver to love on you, to show you attention towards you, to pay attention to your achievements. So you go through this whole thing in life where you're trying to you go through this whole thing in life where you're trying to show up and be who you are, but also show them, look at me. Like, I'm a great person. I'm a great kid. I'm great at sports. I'm getting good grades in school. I'm doing this, this, and this, and that. You're showing up and saying, like, I'm doing all these things, but then they're still not really paying you attention. Or they'll give you a little bit of attention, like just give you like a little bit of breadcrumbs, and then they go back to doing something else. Does that make sense? So it's like you're constantly in this cycle of trying to prove yourself, right? And sometimes it can cause you to feel like a lot of shame, cause you to feel like a lot of guilt. You start to feel like you're not good enough, or nobody really cares about you, or nobody really loves you. And it'll start to make you feel like you have to seek relationships and seek love outside of your home, outside of your caregivers. And then you end up in situations where you get in a relationship with someone who plays the cat and mouse game, who manipulates you, or you get in a relationship with someone who dotes on you and loves on you and give you all this love and admiration and give you all this love, and they're like, oh my God, you're so amazing and all these things, and you don't even realize that this person is loving on you because they love you, or they're loving on you because they want to manipulate you and they want to get something out of you. But you don't know the difference because you grew up in this household where you had to beg, grovel, and plead for love, affection, and attention. And that's why I tell people all the time, it's so important that you learn to love yourself. Regardless of what you went through as a child, regardless of the pain, the hurt, the trauma that you went through as a child, you have to forgive those adults in your life that did not protect you. You have to forgive those adults in your life that did not show up for you, that did not come to your graduations, that did not give you any praise, that did not give you any love and affection, that did not give you any hugs, didn't tell you that they love you every day. You have to learn to be able to forgive them, but also know that what they did was wrong. What they did was harmful. What they did was hurtful. Regardless of the fact, like people say to me all the time, like, as you know, I'm a social worker, and I used to do therapy for 7 years. And I would get people who would say, well, you need to forgive and forget. No, you do not. No, you do not. In the Bible, it says, yes, you need to forgive, but it doesn't say that we have to forget. And it says in the Bible that we don't have to hold grudges. We can forgive that person and let them go, right? We got to forgive them and let them go, and let that pain go. And the only way to start doing that is being able to start healing ourselves. And the only way that we can start healing ourselves is by loving on ourselves. The first person I believe that you should forgive when you go through a traumatic experience is yourself. Because sometimes we pray and we ask God to remove us from things, remove us from situations, remove us from people. And when God shows us, this is your exit plan, this is how you're going to get out, you don't leave. Because you're like, God, is that really you? Are you sure? Now, why would you pray and ask God to do something for you and then you question him? That doesn't make any sense, right? So that's why it's so important that you learn to love yourself, pour into yourself, so that you can then be able to identify when people have the wrong intentions and the right motives right away, right? You want to be able to notice those things immediately, okay? It's so important that you use your discernment that God gives you to be able to recognize when somebody is doing something that can not only be harmful to you and detrimental to you, but also can be detrimental to your mental health, okay? So when I talk about what is narcissism and how does it relate to other people, and how does it affect other people? So say, for example, you grew up in a loving home and you have siblings, right? You grew up in a loving home and you and your siblings get along really well. You have some things that go on in your life that can be like seen as traumatic, like a death, or you having to move, you going to a new school, you getting bullied, right? Say, for instance, you experience your parents going through a divorce, right? And say, for instance, you have to live with your mom full time now, and your sibling is, maybe a brother, and your brother goes to live with the dad full time. You live home, with the mom, who is very avoidant, right? They don't really talk to you much. They kind of give you like the silent treatment because they're experiencing depression or they're grieving the loss of their relationship or their marriage, right? And so they don't mean to be avoidant towards you, but then it in turn makes you feel like a lot of things are your fault. Like, well, maybe they're sad because it's my fault, or maybe they're yelling at me because it's my fault, or maybe they don't pay attention to me because it's my fault. When all in actuality, it's actually not your fault. It's your parents' fault because they're adults, you're a child, and they need to work on their own healing. It doesn't matter the fact of what they have going on in their life. They need to be able to learn how to emotionally regulate so that they can show up for you as a parent, right? So now you go through this stage where, like, when you go to your dad's house, your dad's like loving on you, giving you all this love and all this admiration and buying you things, taking you nice places and all these things, right? But then when you go home to your mom's house, she's always yelling at you. You get on her nerves. Every time she see you coming, she's like, oh my God, what you want now? All these things, right? And in all honesty, that really has nothing to do with you. The fact that your mom is treating you that way or doing that towards you, it's her own problem, her own issue. You didn't do anything to her to cause her to treat you that way. Does that make sense? So now you grow up and you become an adult, right? And so you feel very confused on like what love is, because it's like you knew your mom loved you, but you knew that your mom didn't always show you that she loved you or gave you affection, and she didn't always say nice things to you, but your dad did, and your dad would give you like all this love, all this admiration, lots of love and pouring into you, right? So then you get into your first relationship. Say you're in college and you get into your first relationship, right? So you go through your first relationship and you're in this relationship with this person, and they are like loving on you. They're just like pouring you all these gifts and showering on these gifts, taking you all these nice places and doing all these nice things for you, right? And then you start to notice like they're buying you nice stuff, the vibes is right, y'all going out, you're hanging out with your friends, they're introducing you to their family, to their friends, you're introducing them to your family and friends. You guys are really vibing, you're really getting along, you really like this vibe, and you're really enjoying each other's company, right? And then bam, one day you notice they're start to be a little distant. They're starting to be avoidant. You're like talking to them, they're not really making eye contact, they're not really talking to you, they're not really engaging, and you're like, what's going on? And they're like, oh, nothing, everything's fine, I'm just stressed about school, I got this big exam coming up, blah blah blah, right? This is what they're saying. So you just believe in what they say. So then you notice like they used to be coming over to your dorm, calling you all the time, texting you, and then all of a sudden you notice like you're not a priority in their life and they're not showing up for you like they used to. So then you like checking on them, making sure that they're okay, thinking like, oh, maybe something's going on, maybe they're depressed, maybe there's something going on, but not realizing that they've already started devaluing you in your relationship. But here you are trying to pull them back in to get back to that honeymoon phase, that love bombing phase where they were loving on you, the vibes were good, y'all was going everywhere together, spending time together all the time, doing stuff together, studying together, doing all these things, right? Hanging out with each other's friends, meeting each other's family, all this stuff, right? They telling you everything that you want to hear, telling you how they really want to be with you, they see a future with you, a life with you, all these things, right? Then you start to notice like they're like pulling back and they're withdrawing, and sometimes they're withdrawing like over time, it's like a gradual withdrawal, or they just do it abruptly, like just one day out of the blue they just stop calling you, they stop texting you, they stop responding, they leave you on red, they unfollow you on Instagram. You know what I'm saying? And you're like, what is going on? That's the discard phase, right? And that's when they like, we don't need you no more, I'm good off you, I don't want to, be with you, right? So then you notice like a few weeks go by and you're just like, this is so strange, I don't know what happened with him, he's not talking to me, she's not talking to me, I don't know what I did wrong or what I said or what happened. And then you notice all of a sudden they're following you on Instagram again, they're messaging saying, hey, can we meet up for lunch? You go and you meet them for lunch and they give you flowers and you're like, oh, thank you so much, what happened? Like, was there something I said or something I did? And they're like, no, I was just going through so much. My mom was sick, I was feeling depressed, my grades was slipping, and I just had a lot going on, and this and this and this and that. And you're like, oh, okay, I understand, right? And then when you get back to your dorm after y'all have lunch, they're like texting you, calling you, you guys are hanging out, but then after y'all have lunch, you get back to your dorm, right? And so when you get back to your dorm, you see that they started following you on Instagram again. And so then you go and you start looking at pictures and photos or whatever on their Instagram, right? And you see that they're taking pictures with this one particular person. They're hanging out with a group of their friends, but you keep seeing that same person that they went and had ice cream with in the group of pictures with their friends, or they're, doing different things or whatever. And you're like, where'd this person even come from? Who is that person? So you ask them about it and they're like, oh, that's my friend. We just hanging out. That's my friend. You don't got to worry about her. All along, they started devaluing you, pulling away from you because they met a new supply. Okay? That's how narcissists work. The first thing they're going to do in the toxic situation of a narcissist, they're going to come in like they are the captain, savior, knight in shining armor. They love you. You are everything to them. They can't live without you. They want to spend the rest of their life with you. They never met nobody like you before. You give them everything they ever wanted. You love on them. You talk to them. You listen to their problems. You help them with their whatever they have going on in their life. Their parents love you, their mom loves you, their grandparents love you, their siblings love you. They ain't never had no relationship like this before. Blah, 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 right? They buying you stuff. They putting you on this pedestal. They're like, oh my God, you're the best partner I ever had. You're so loving. I never been with anybody like you before. You always love on me. You always support me. You always do all these things. And they're just going on and on and on and on and on and on about how much they love you and how much they admire you and how much you have changed their life. And then they start telling you how they want to spend the rest of their life with you. They want to do all these things with you and all this stuff, right? So then everything's going good in the relationship. And this can go on for years. Okay, this can go on for years. It usually happens within like 6 months to a year where they're doing the love bombing. And then about like 6 months to a year into the relationship, the devaluation stage comes. That's when they start losing interest in you. They no longer make you a top priority. You basically kind of lost your place in the narcissist's life, but you don't even know they're a narcissist yet. Like, you are still in the dark. You have no idea. You don't know yet, right? So you're still just like showing up and being there for them and all this stuff and have no idea that they actually are seeing somebody else on the side, but you don't know that. They're just like pushing away from you, right? And then you start to notice, like, when you start asking them questions, they're like, oh no, it's not like that. Oh no, we got this going on. I got that going on, right? And then you'll start to notice, like, they liking other women's pictures on Instagram, or they following certain people on TikTok, or they hanging out with a new group of friends. They going out partying more. You know, they're just doing all these different things that they weren't doing before when they were with you and you guys were loving on each other, right? So now all of a sudden you start seeing who they really are. You're like, okay, you said you were going to do this, this, and that, and the third, but then they don't show up, right? So then you start questioning them and you're like, hey, you said you were going to meet me at such and such and we were going to go to the library, but you didn't show up. You didn't text, you didn't call, you were a no-show, you just ghosted me. And then they start getting on defensive. Well, I had a lot going on and I never really said for sure I was going to meet you there. I said maybe I would if my schedule permitted. Now they're playing mind games. They're manipulating, right? They're trying to switcheroo on you, trying to manipulate the conversation when you know for a fact they said they were going to meet you at the library at 1 o'clock, but then they never showed up. Do you hear what I'm saying? So that is when you start to realize their mask is falling off. The narcissist that they say the person that they say they are is not who they really are. And they're really just playing games, right? And so you stop talking to them. And you're just like, they playing games. I don't have time for this. And now all of a sudden that you moving on, they coming back telling you how much they love you. They appreciate you. They so sorry. They're going to do better. You're like, no, I'm good. And then they're like, no, I'm going to really do better. I'm going to do better. I'm going to do better. Then they keep coming around and they go back into that first stage of the idealization where they're showing up and doing all the things that they said that they were going to do. And you remember, and your body remembers the person that you fell in love with and who they were, right? And then you back in a relationship with them, you're back being with them, and then the cycle starts all over again, right? So you've already been through 2 cycles of this situation with this person, and you don't even realize, you don't even know that you're in a relationship with a covert narcissist. You have no idea. You're just thinking they love you and this is just how it is because when you were growing up as a kid, your caregivers kind of basically had a lot of the same behaviors. It's always the cat and mouse game. You know, it's like they loving on you, giving you all this admiration, and then the next thing they pull the rug from under you. Nothing you do is good enough, and then you're trying to work your way and people please and do all these things to get back to the phase where they were loving on you, they admired you, they did all these things. I'll give you an example. when I was in high school, I can give you two examples. When I was in high school, I was working at my first job, and my first job was at Six Flags. Um, and I was working as a ride operator. So I worked at this place, it's an amusement park. And this particular one, it has like animals and it has amusement rides and all that stuff, right? And so I was a ride operator, and there was a new person who came to our ride who needed to be trained. So I started training this new girl. I was training her on how to be a ride operator, how to operate the ride, the safety precautions, all these things. Because I worked in the tower where I would be the one pushing the buttons to operate the ride. If there was an emergency situation, I would put the emergency evacuation on and do all the stuff. So I was the one on the top tower who was doing all that stuff, right? You have to take an exam to be able to do this job and everything like that, right? So I met this young lady, and she was like trying to learn how to be a ride operator at my ride. So she would be there when I wasn't there or when another person wasn't there, right? And so then I ended up training her on how to do that, and then ended up training her on two other positions, and then we just started hanging out as friends, right? And so when we were hanging out as friends, she was just telling me about how her life is, and how her relationships were with her family, her friends, and all these different things. So we just kind of became friends, and we started hanging out. So after about a few weeks of us hanging out, we started hanging out all the time. And then all of a sudden, she was like interested in me, and she wanted to be in a relationship with me. Like, I was very open and honest about who I was, my identity, and all that stuff. I didn't hide who I was or anything like that. And it was so funny to me because she classified herself as heterosexual. She never dated girls. She never been into girls, but she was really into me. So she said. So long story short, she's hanging out with me. We start dating, right? And we start spending time together. And so while we're dating and spending time together, we're hanging out. She comes, picks me up from school sometime. Now, keep in mind, she's already graduated from high school. She's not in high school anymore. She works full time as a CNA. I'm 16, she's 19. So we work at she works as a CNA. She works as a CNA at nighttime, but on the weekends, she works at the amusement park with me, right? So she's picking me up to go to the work at the amusement park and stuff like that, right? So then we hanging out, all this stuff, right? So then I start introducing her to some of my friends. And so I start introducing her to some of my friends. Now, keep in mind, I live at home with my mom. My mom is extremely strict. She doesn't allow me to have company. I cannot go to other people's house. I cannot spend the night at other people's house. And people cannot spend the night at my house. So after about 3 months, that starts to get overwhelmingly irritating to her. And so she starts hanging out with two of my other friends, right? And so when she's hanging out with the two of my friends, she's still telling me how much she loved me. She's never been loved like this before. She loves everything about me. We spend so much great time together. She loves all this stuff. So eventually, my mom gets wind of the fact that I'm in a relationship with this young lady. She not having it. She not having it. She was like, absolutely not. No kids in my house. None of my kids are ever going to be in a same gender relationship. That's not happening. So she puts me out. So I'm 16 years old, walking out of the house with my trash bag. I don't have a cell phone. And I call her on her cell phone from my house phone. And I said, hey, can you pick me up, down the street at the little gas station? I think it was a Chevron. Was it a Chevron gas station or a Shell gas station? I don't know. It was a gas station. And she's like, yeah, I'll pick you up. No problem. So she lived in another town, which was like 15, 20 minutes away. So she comes to pick me up or whatever. And she's like, what are you doing with all those bags? And I was like, she put me out. And she's like, why? So I'm like, oh, my mom put me out because she said that I can't be in a relationship with you and that she's not going to have any kids who are same gender loving. She was so devastated, like she could not believe it. Like she was so shocked, right? And so she's like, well, don't worry about it. I'll ask my mom if you can come and stay with us, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, okay. So she calls and she asks, I was like, if not, I can go and live with my best friend, right? And she's like, okay. So long story short, I go and I stay with her, right? So her mom says it's okay for me to come and live with her. I go and live with her. We are hanging out all the time. I no longer have a curfew, so we come and go as we please because I'm living with her and her parents. We working together. She ends up leaving that other job where she was like doing the CNA, and she's working full time at the amusement park with me. We're spending time together all the time. We're working out all the time, hanging out. We go to the movies. We go to parties. We like just doing all kinds of stuff. Like, and I'm like living my best life because I've never been able to do any of these things. Never been able to go to the party. Never been able to go to the movies after 10 o'clock at night. Never been able to do none of this stuff, right? So I'm just like, wow, I'm out here living my best life, right? So long story short, my mom calls up to my job and was like, you need to, I quit my volunteer job. I was working at Kaiser as a volunteer, like a candy striper, and I quit my volunteer job. And my mom found out that I quit my volunteer job. So she came up to my job at the amusement park and she told me that I had to come home and that I was not allowed to be at her house anymore, or she was going to call the police and have her arrested because she's 3 years older than me. So, at the time, I didn't know the law, and I didn't know that the age of consent was 16. So I didn't want her to be arrested. So I said, well, just take me home. She was upset. She was crying. She was all sad, all this stuff, right? So when I went back home, I started noticing like she started being distant towards me. She wasn't answering my phone calls all the time. I couldn't text her or anything like that. Only thing I could do was like page her because I didn't have a cell phone. So she had a pager and she had a cell phone. So I would like page her or whatever. And she would call back sometimes, but she used to call back like right away. But then after I went back home, she was calling back less and less and less, right? And then I would see her at work. We still work the same route. And I was like, what's going on? Blah, 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 blah. And she's like, oh, nothing. It's just hard, being in a relationship with you. You're so young. Your mom is so controlling. She doesn't want you to be with me. She don't like me. She don't want me around. Every time I come to the house, she don't even want to answer the door. It's, she just started talking about like all these things, right? So at this point, I don't even realize like she's pretty much like devaluing me, because she's already in a relationship with one of my friends. Now, I didn't know this at the time, right? So I've already been devalued and I've already been discarded, but I don't know that yet. Okay? So then after this whole situation happens, I end up leaving and going to Hawaii, right? And I go to Hawaii for 10 days with my Girl Scout troop. We go to Hawaii. So we go to Hawaii. We're in Hawaii. We have a great time in Hawaii. I'm calling her every day. She's talking to me. I'm also sending her like postcards through the mail and all this other stuff, right? And so when I'm in Hawaii, she keeps saying stuff like, are you over there being with other girls while you're there? This and this and that. I was like, girl, I'm on a Girl Scout trip. Do you realize that there's 16 girls in my Girl Scout troop and their moms are here? Like, of course I'm sleeping in the same room with other girls, but I'm not doing nothing with them. Like, they're my friends. Like, girl, what are you talking about? So you'll start to notice, like, when you're in a relationship with a narcissist, they will start accusing you of doing things that they're actually doing that you're not doing, right? And so I started, like, thinking to myself, like, this doesn't make any sense. So I was talking to one of my Girl Scout leaders about it that I was really cool with. And I was like, my girlfriend keeps saying this and this and that to me. She's like, oh, maybe she's just missing you, or maybe she's having a hard time with you being over here, blah, 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 right? So then I called one of my good friends who also was hanging out with the both of us and was friends with the both of us now, right? I went to high school with him and everything like that. So I was like, she's acting really strange. I don't understand what's going on, blah, 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 blah. He was like, oh, because she's sleeping with such and such. I was like, what? He was like, yeah. Your close friend that you call your sister, they're together. I said, how do you know that? She's like, he's like, we went to Six Flags to the water park. Because, when you work at Six Flags at the amusement park, you get a free pass to go to the water park too. So when you work at Six Flags, you can get into any of the parks for free. At this time. I don't know how it is now, but this is how it was back then, right? I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, this cannot really be happening, right? And he's like, yes, this is happening. This is what's going on. He's like, and this is how I know what's going on. He was like, because when we were at the park, they were hugged all up on each other. They had hickeys on their necks, like, like somebody sucking on your neck type of hickeys. And I was like, what? And he was like, yes. And I just started crying. Like, I'm in Hawaii. I'm in Maui, the most beautiful place in the world. And I'm just crying. So then, now keep in mind, when I get back from Hawaii, she comes and sees me at the house the day after I get back from the airport. My mom picked me up. My mom and dad picked me up from the airport. She comes to my house and sees me the day after I get back from the airport, right? And she comes to the house and she spends the night. Like nothing ever happened. So that next morning, I get up and I'm making breakfast for her or whatever. And the girl keeps calling her cell phone. And I'm just like, why she keep calling you? And she was like, oh, I don't know. Maybe something going on with her dude. You know, she went to visit him this weekend at the jail, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, oh, okay. So then she starts calling me on the house phone, same friend. And so I answered. I was like, is everything okay? She was like, yeah, I was trying to talk to your girlfriend, but she's not answering the phone. Woo, 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 woo. Is she over there? And I was like, yeah, she's right here. You want to talk to her? I was like, we eating breakfast. And she's like, oh, she is over there? And I was like, yeah. Why? What's the problem? She's like, nothing. She's like, I'll just call you later. And I was like, okay. So she hangs up the phone. And I was like, she got irritated because you was over here. What's going on? She's like, nothing's going on, babe. Everything's fine. I was like, you a lie. She's like, what are you talking about? I was like, he already told me that y'all been seeing each other, that y'all been messing around and this and this and that. She's like, no, we haven't. We hang out and stuff, but nothing's been going on and blah, 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 blah. Come to find out, that was a lie. She didn't come clean that day. I never let her spend a night ever again. And she ends up going home, right? So then I call her. No, she calls me when she gets home. And she's like, we really need to talk. I really need to talk to you. Not knowing that when she left my house, she went to her house and went to go see her when she left my house. We live 2 towns away from each other, right? So she goes to her house to go see her and she goes spend time with her, right? Then she leaves and goes home. When she gets home, she calls me from the house and she calls me on her house phone to let me know she's at home. Because we, back then we had caller ID on our house phones. And so I could see she calling from her house phone instead of from her cell phone. So she's like, well, you know what? I really need to be honest with you and tell you what's going on and whoop-de woo woo woo. I was like, okay. So she's like, I just want to let you know that, yes, me and her are together and we're in a relationship and I don't want to be with you anymore. She's like, I love you, but I can't be with you because you're too young. And it's just not ethical for me to be in a relationship with you. Ethical? It's not ethical for you to be in a relationship with me. It's not ethical for you to be in a relationship. We live in California. The age of consent is 16. You can be in a relationship with somebody in the state of California if you are the age of 16 and you can drive and they cannot drink, meaning they're not over 21. That's the law. Okay? And I was like, okay, girl. I was like, if you didn't want to be with me, you should have just said you didn't want to be with me and you wanted to be with her, and you could have just been open and honest about that, and you could have just broke it off with me before you start spending the night with her. Because I didn't deserve that. And I was doing just fine when you met me. You pursued me, Miss I don't date girls. I'm straight. What a joke, right? Like, if she's so straight and she don't date girls, why is she cheating with my friend? That's a girl. She not cheating with my homeboy. She cheating with a girl. That's my friend. Right? That we call each other sisters. Right? So that goes to show how people are who have narcissistic tendencies or who has been diagnosed with narcissism. Right? She ended up being in a relationship with that girl for 3 years. Do you understand me? 3 years. She ended up being in a relationship with that girl for 3 years. The girl had a boyfriend. She was going to see her boyfriend at jail and everything. He didn't even know she was in a relationship with her. Then when the boy came home, she started messing with the boy didn't tell my ex-girlfriend about it. She's devastated that she cheated on her with the dude. Then guess what? Then they all start being together. They all gonna be in a relationship. I didn't want no parts of it. I was like, y'all can have it. I didn't talk to any of them ever again. Like, I was so cool off them. I didn't talk to them. I wasn't friends with them or nothing. Then I ended up graduating from high school. Keep in mind, I was in 11th grade, right? I was in 11th grade. And I was living at home with my mom, all the stuff, right? And then eventually, like 2 months later, my mom kicks me out again. She's like, she don't want me living here. I act too grown. How am I acting grown? She said I'm acting too grown. I'm talking back, I'm acting too grown. I don't see how I'm acting too grown or talking back. When she asked me to wash the dishes, I washed the dishes. Then after I washed the dishes, I made me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. After I made the peanut butter and jelly sandwich, I put the butter knife from making the peanut butter and jelly sandwich in the sink. She came in my room and she said, why didn't you wash the dishes? I said, I did wash the dishes. She's like, no, you didn't wash the dishes. I was like, Mom, I did wash the dishes. You always talking back. I'm not talking back, bruh. I didn't say that. I was like, Mom, are you okay? I'm not talking back. Like, I'm not talking back. What are you talking about? She's like, what is this? What is this? So I go in the kitchen and I look and I'm like, oh, that's right. I made a sandwich after I finished cleaning the kitchen. I said, well, let me just clean it right quick. She's like, that's what I mean. You're a liar. You said that you washed the dishes and you didn't. Then you over here talking back. I'm so sick of you. You need to get out of my house. I'm so sick of you. I was like, get out of your house and go where? Where am I going to go? Live with my dad who abandoned me, who don't talk to me because his wife don't like me and don't like you? Where am I going to go? She's like, I don't care where you go. She goes in my room. She brings 2 trash bags. She's like, get out of my house. She starts putting all my stuff in the bags and telling me to get out. She did some other things, but I ain't going to talk about those things. And she puts my stuff in the bag. So I call my sister. Again, I don't have a cell phone, so I have to go and use the house phone. I call my sister on the house phone. And I'm like, can you come and pick me up? Mommy, put me out again. She's like, again, what you do this time? I was like, girl, I left a butter knife in the sink. She's like, man, she be tripping. Keep in mind, my sister is 17. No, my sister is not 17. My sister got put out of the house when she was 17, but now my sister is older. She's 5 years older than me. I'm 16. So she's 5 years older than me. So she comes to pick me up, right? In her car. I go and live with her and her auntie at her aunt's house. But the auntie lives all the way in Richmond. I go to Vallejo High. I can't get to school from there all the way. My sister's in college. She goes to Contra Costa County College or whatever it's called. So I asked my best friend, my sister drops me off at school that Monday. I asked my best friend, can I stay with her for a little while? My mom put me out again. She's like, girl, what is wrong with your mom? Why she keep putting you out? I said, girl, I don't know. I don't know. But she put me out. So then she's like, okay, yeah, I'm going to ask my sister if you can come and stay with me. So she goes, she asks her sister. Her sister said, yeah, she can spend the night with us. She can stay with us as long as she needs. So I go and I live with them. I end up living with them for 6 months. Do you hear me? I end up living with them for 6 months. Okay? What kind of parent put their kid out at 16? A parent who don't have it all together. That's who do. That's the type of parent that I had. I grew up with a mother who had narcissistic tendencies, which in turn allowed me to think that that was real love and that was true love. So one minute she's idolizing me. I'm the best thing in the world. I'm about to be the first one of her kids to go to a university. I'm going to go to college. I'm going to be something. I'm this and this and that. I'm getting all these great grades in school, blah, 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 all this stuff. She's basically like idolizing me, right? Putting me on this pedestal. Then in the split of a hat of a moment, if I'm not doing something that beats to her drum, to her standard, it's like her way or no way. And if I'm not doing that, then bam, she devalues me. I'm not good enough. I ain't never been good enough. I ain't never gonna be good enough. That's why my daddy don't want to be in my life. Like, she would say these types of things to me as a kid, right? That's why my daddy don't love me. That's why he don't come around. And that's why he a foster parent and he done adopted kids from foster care, but he don't want to be in my life. Like, who says that to their kid? I would never say that to my kids. And I remember calling my stepdad and telling him like what was going on. And he was like, well, you know, your mom just got a lot going on. She just not she's not wrapped too tight in the head, all this other stuff. And then she started blaming me and saying it was my fault that she lost her job. And I was like, why is it my fault that you lost your job? She's like, because you got me running back and forth to court because you want to run your mouth all the time. So when she says I got her running back and forth to court all the time because I want to run my mouth all the time, the year before I got in a relationship with this young girl, I had disclosed to my aunt that I was being abused by a family friend in the family. My mom was so upset with me, and she said to me, and I quote, I cannot believe you over there being so fast having an affair with my best friend's man. Just let that sink in for a minute. You're telling your 15-year-old that you cannot believe that she's over there having an affair with your best friend's man? Who says that? Trigger warning. I am talking about childhood essay. So not only is she angry and mad at me because this particular adult hurt and harmed me and I did nothing wrong, she mad that I now want to go to the police and have this person arrested. She was like, we don't do that in the black family. We don't go to the police. We don't tell the police what's going on. Well, wait, baby, let me tell you something. We going today. She's like, I'm not taking you to no police station to report that. And this is that. You're going to bring embarrassment and shame to the family. Everybody's going to know what happened. Who cares that everybody's going to know? Let's go to the police and make sure that he doesn't do this to other people. You see what I'm saying? So you see what I mean when I say your caregiver devalues your opinion. Your caregiver devalues your feelings. Your caregiver devalues your emotions, which in turn makes you feel like you're not good enough, make you feel like you're not lovable, make you feel like you're not loved. Do you understand what I mean when I say that when you end up in relationships with narcissistic people, it's because you grew up in a household with a caregiver who either had narcissistic tendencies or was a narcissist themselves and did not allow you to show up as who you are and value your emotions and your feelings. Constantly the cycle of the idealization, the love bombing, the constantly love bombing, the devalue, then they discard you, then they Hoover you, bring you back in. Her favorite thing was like, you're not my friend right now. You're not my friend right now. Who says to their kid, you're not my friend right now? That's what she used to say. You're not my friend right now. I'm good off you. You're not my friend right now. That's what my mom used to say to me when I was a child. And I'm not her friend right now because I'm not doing something that she wants me to do, or I'm not doing it in the way that she wants me to do it in. So I call my stepdad and I tell him, well, she called my stepdad and told my stepdad what happened to me. She honestly, in all actuality, called the whole family. But she don't want me to go to the police because it's going to embarrass the family. But she calls the whole family and gossips and tells the whole family about what I did. My dad says, he's my stepdad, but I call him my dad. My dad says, well, what do you want to do, baby girl? I said, I want to go to the police and make sure he never do this to nobody else. He said, well, you don't want me to take care of him? I said, no, because I don't want you to end up in prison. He said, okay, well, I'll pick you up tomorrow from school and I'll take you to the police station. He came and picked me up from school to take me to the police station. My mom was in the car. I'm like, why are you here, Mom? Well, you know, I am your parent. So, I mean, if this is what you want to do, are you sure this is what you want to do? I'm like, yes, this is what I want to do. That's another thing that they do. They guilt trip you. Where you realize everybody's going to find out, and then your siblings aren't going to be embarrassed. I'm going to be embarrassed. Your grandma's going to be embarrassed. You know, your grandma lives right next door to them. And me, I'm just like, okay, Ann. That's what I'm saying in my head, but I'm not saying it out loud. Go to the police station. I reported to the police. The police take my report. They asked me when it started. I let them know it started. The first time it started when I was 9 years old, and it's been going on for 5 years. And they're like, well, have you ever told anybody? I said, yes, I told 2 of my close friends. They know about it. And I told one of my friends when I was in junior high. So, of course, the police start doing their investigation. They go to him, arrest him. Well, they asked him to come in for questioning. They didn't arrest him. They asked him to come in for questioning. He says he didn't do nothing. He don't know why I'm lying, blah, 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 blah. His wife calling my mom, going off, all this stuff. Keep in mind, my mom does not give me bus fare to go to school. She makes me walk to school for punishment, for embarrassing the family, for going to the police, for what happened to me as a child. So I'm walking to and from school. I'm walking from school one day, and I see this white truck keep passing by me. I'm like, what the heck? I pay attention to my surroundings because I live in California. I grew up around the whole polyclass situation, so I know that people kidnap kids. So I'm always paying attention, always watching. So anyway, I'm walking home from school, and this particular day, my friend, he's not walking with me. So when I'm walking home, you know, remember how I told you later on the next year I met that girl and I was dating that girl and she picked me up from that gas station? So I'm walking by the gas station, and when you walk past the gas station, it's like a shopping center, right? And when you pass by the gas station, there's a shopping center. In that shopping center is like a donut shop, a cleaners, and a grocery store, like an old school grocery store. It's not even like a franchise grocery store. It's like an old school grocery store, like a mom and pop like grocery store. I'm walking. The white truck pulls right in front of me. I stop to go around. Look to my left out of my peripheral vision. See that this person rolls the window down. It's him. He says, oh, it just gets me emotional thinking about it. Why would you tell our secrets when I told you that God told me to teach you the right way to go and that you are going to be my wife? I didn't say anything. I didn't say nothing. I just looked at him, turned around, and went back to the gas station. Because I know the gas station has cameras. Right? I didn't run or nothing. I just looked at him like, now keep in mind, by this time I'm 15. I just looked at him, turned around from where I was walking. So this is his truck. I'm walking straight, right? He pulled the truck into the driveway. I'm just walking straight down the street. I go to turn to go this way around the car, and I see somebody on my peripheral vision. He rolls the window down, the window right here. So I stopped. He said, hey, why would you be telling our business? That's what he said. Then he went on to say everything else. I looked, and baby, I did just like this. Turned right back around and took my right to the gas station. And I sat in that gas station until he drove away. I told the worker, I said, I'm just waiting here for my mom to pick me up. He's like, oh, that's fine. Would you like a snack or something? He was a real cool guy. And I was like, oh, I'll just have some chips and water. He's like, okay, go ahead. He was like, it's on me. I'll take care of it. Do you know when I got home that day, I said, Mom, well, when she got home that day, because I would get home from school like 4 o'clock. She'd get home from work. I said, Mom, such and such followed me home from school today. What? Why would he do that? He said he didn't even do it. I don't see why he would be following you home. That's what she said. I said, well, the reason he followed me home from school was because he wanted to give me a message. She said, what did he say? I said, he said this, and this, and the third. She said, okay, well, I'll make sure I let the cop know. That was that on that. I'll make sure I let the cop know. Not know, are you okay? Do you feel scared? Do you need a hug? Nothing. Nothing. Do you understand me? Nothing. I knew right then and there that I had to start learning how to take care of my own emotional needs because I did not have parents that were going to show up for me. And that in turn led me down this road where I ended up in a relationship, in a toxic relationship. My first relationship I was in was a toxic relationship. I cannot diagnose and say if that person was a narcissist, but I know they definitely had narcissistic traits. To this day, they still do. Okay? And sad to say, very, very sad to say, that was not my first narcissistic relationship. I ended up in another narcissistic relationship when I went to college. Right, Unique. I ended up in another relationship with a narcissist in college. Then when I got out of that relationship, I ended up in another one. I took a break and wasn't in a relationship for like a year or two. But then when I finally did get in a relationship, I ended up in another relationship with a toxic narcissist. Then I left her alone, moved away to Atlanta to college, and ended up in another relationship with a toxic person. She was very, very selfish. I don't know necessarily if she was a narcissist, but I know she definitely had traits. Now that I look back on it, I was on Twitch yesterday and did a story time about my relationship with her. And after the fact, I was like, wow. Left her, ended up in another relationship with a toxic narcissist. Stayed single for 2 years, ended up in another relationship with a toxic narcissist. Now, this person is actually diagnosed, but I didn't know that at the time. Left that situation, ended up getting in a relationship with a man. This is how you know I was not living in my truth. I was not loving myself. I was just looking for love in all the wrong places. I definitely believe that I attract these type of relationships because I come from those type of parents. I come from narcissistic parents. So I always believed the way that they loved me was the way that it was supposed to be. It wasn't until I got healed that I realized that's not normal. Like, that is not normal. At all. Like, at all. That's not normal at all. Was attacked by this person physically. They ended up going to jail. I ended up getting in a relationship with the person that was my knight in shining armor, who's saving me from this situation. Yep, that's true. That's true, Eon. And ended up in a relationship with him for 2 years and ended up having to leave him because, one, I didn't want to be with him. Two, he kept trying to convince me of why I should be in a relationship with him and be married to him when he was not faithful, for one. For two, come to find out, I was 6 months or 7 months barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen washing dishes, and his wife called me on the phone to congratulate me on our baby boy that we was having. Gave birth to that baby. Once the doctor cleared me, I left him. You know why? Because the wife was a girl's girl. She was like, I know that you don't know about me. I know there's no way that you knew about me. She's like, I guarantee you that his family didn't even tell you. I said, no, his family told me that y'all were divorced. She was like, girl, we are not divorced. We live in 2 different places. I was living with him full time. She lived in another state. She's like, but he still takes care of all my bills. And he still comes and visits me. Every time he comes and visits, we go out on dates and spend the night. What? She was like, yeah, even when he brings you with him and he leaves you with his sisters to go do whatever you're doing with his sisters, and he going to work on somebody's car, she's like, he with me. What? She was like, you probably don't even realize that he's cheating on you while you guys are living in Atlanta. You need to pick up his phone and go through his phone. I said, say what? Completely shocked. I was completely shocked. And of course, when I went to him and told him, you know, your wife called me today, he was like, I ain't married. I was like, you still married to your wife? No, I'm not. I said, you guys are divorced. He's like, I said, you guys are not divorced. He's like, no, we divorced. I said, y'all never went to court. You never got no paperwork to say that you was divorced. Yes, I did. I said, well, where is it? I don't know. Just lying. So sure enough, it took me about two or 3 weeks to like go through the phone, investigate and all the stuff, and found out she was telling everything she told me was the truth. I just played my part. When it was time for me to have the baby, gave birth, the doctor told me I was cleared. I packed up everything with one of the girls that he was cheating with. She came to the house, helped me pack up everything. I left. Went to go and stay with my ex-girlfriend in Tennessee until my flight was ready. I went back to Atlanta, shipped my car to California, got on a one-way ticket back to California, and never answered his phone calls or texts or nothing. A year later, he followed me to California, begging me to take him back. No. I never took him back. He stayed here for 3 years trying to be a family with me, asking me to be with him, blah, 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 blah. No. I just be friends with him, co-parent with him. He had girlfriends, all that type of stuff. They were so jealous of me, so irritated with me. I'm like, girl, I don't want that man. I'm gay. You can have him. Girl, all he do is cheat and lie. He was telling all of them I was his wife and I had cheated on him with another man and got pregnant by somebody else. Girl, we wasn't even together. We was not even together. But when I was going through all of these things, I did not love myself. I did not love myself. And that's why I ended up in another relationship, married to somebody who was a liar, a cheater, a manipulator, a thief. Do you understand me? When you don't love yourself, you're going to keep continuing in this perpetuating cycle with these narcissists where they're going to constantly be able to manipulate you until you wake up. And for some reason, there was so many parts of me where I just didn't feel good enough. I didn't feel lovable enough. I just didn't feel all these things. Like, I knew I was a great person and I was an amazing person. I knew I was an amazing partner. But for some reason, I just felt like if I leave them, I won't find another person that's going to love me for who I am. I'm just going to end up in another relationship with another toxic person like them. So I might as well just stay. That was my mindset. And then when I was pregnant in my marriage with my baby, I started going to therapy. And that's when I started healing. I started going to therapy. I started healing. And I kept saying, you know, I have been in all these relationships back to back to back to back to back where I was either lied to, cheated on. No, I think every relationship I've been cheated on. And I forgave and I went back. And I forgave and I kept going back. I forgave and I kept staying. I said, in the whole common denominator of all these relationships is me. So I'm the problem that I need to fix. I'm the problem that needs to work on me so that I can stop this toxic cycle. And me going to school to become a therapist, I realized that I needed to work on my self-love. I didn't value myself. I didn't love myself, and I did not show up for myself because I was a people pleaser, because I wanted to make everybody else happy. Me making everybody else happy was in turn killing me on the inside, right? So it's like you have to show up for yourself first, love yourself first. Because that's right, people will use your vulnerabilities against you. Let me tell you how my son's dad manipulated me into having a kid with him. You know what he said? Don't you want your kids to have a dad? You didn't have a dad. Don't you want your kids to have a dad? And I was like, yeah, I do want my kids to have a dad. He's like, so you need to cancel all those appointments that you're going through with the IVF doctor, and we can just have a baby. And we can be a family, and your kid can grow up and be a dad, have a dad. Ask me how many field trips he has been on with my son. Ask me how much of an active dad he is in my son's life. Ask me when the last time he's seen my son. I don't even say our son. My son. I'm the one who gets up every day and take care of that little boy. I'm the one to make sure that he gets to sports on time. I'm the one who is paying $12,000 a year for him to go to dyslexia training because he needs a private tutor to help him learn how to read because he's dyslexic. I'm the one showing up for him every day. I had to beg, plead, and bargain with him to even for him to send money for our kid's birthday, for Christmas gifts, for sports. For 5 years, I was begging him to help with his kid, begging him to send money. But guess what? He got money to spend on his stepkids. He got money to spend on them women that he's spending time with. He got money to spend on trips, hotels. But he don't got no money to send to our kid. Bet, I'm putting you on child support, bruh. Oh, you a bitter baby mama because you put your son's dad on child support. I waited till my son was 5 years old to put this man on child support. I waited till he was 5 years old. Giving him a chance after chance after chance. He always working. He always got his own side business. So he always got money coming in. And when he was living here, when he followed me to California, and he was living here for those 3 years, he was paying me $1,100 a month in child support. And helping with daycare. Now that he don't live here, the state garnishes his check. I get $500 a month for that baby. $500 a month for my 11-year-old son who wears a size 10 shoe where his shoes cost $160. But saying all that to say, if I would have loved myself from Jump Street, if I would have healed my childhood trauma from Jump Street, then I wouldn't have went through these perpetuating cycles of narcissistic abuse over and over and over and over again. And why do I tell you my story? Well, I get on here and I tell you guys, you gotta do this. You gotta love yourself. You gotta show up for yourself. You gotta forgive yourself. You gotta heal yourself emotionally, mentally, physically. You gotta put God first. You gotta get a better relationship with God. You gotta trust God. You gotta love God. You gotta know that God has a purpose for your life. I get on here and tell you guys this every day because I have lived through it. I have been on my healing journey for over 4 years. Do you see what I'm telling you? 4 years I've been on my healing journey. I left my toxic marriage in December of 2021. It took me 2 years to get that person out of my system because I was constantly begging and pleading and wanting them to change and do better. And treat me better, treat the kids better. But they never did. They would come around, they would do what they're supposed to do, get what they wanted, and then they would go back to the same thing, the same perpetuating cycle. And then I eventually was like, I'm good. I don't want to be in a relationship. I just want to spend time with my kids, and I want to entertain my kids, travel with my kids. I have people who come to me and say, oh, I want to take you out on a date. I want to show you how. No, thank you. I'm good. I don't want to be in a relationship with anybody who wants to entertain everybody else and entertain me. No, thank you. You want to show up and give me breadcrumbs and call me when you want to, answer the phone when you want to, come around when you want to. No, I'm good. But see, the old me, the unhealed version of me would accept that. The new me ain't going for that. No, thank you. I'm good. I stay away from the dating pool because it definitely has piss in it. The dating pool definitely is not what it used to be. And I also think there's too many married people in the dating pool, and that's why so many of you guys are experiencing the same thing. The toxic lying, the toxic cheating, the constant perpetuating cycle of like, do they love me? Do they care about me? Do they all these things, right? And there was red flags. I can tell you right now off the top of my head, red flags that I experienced in my relationships with all of these people that I didn't pay attention to. Inconsistency, red flag number 1. When you're a liar and a cheater and a manipulator and a narcissist and you like to gaslight, you don't know how to show up consistently because you can't keep up with all your lies. They lie. They carry a facade. They don't show up as who they are. They're not who they say they are. They show up as a representative. And then they'll try to mirror you. You know, like when you talk about your relationships or you talk about your family life or you talk about things that you've done in life, I don't know if you ever notice, like they always want to mirror you. Oh yeah, I used to be like that too. I love that too. Oh my God, you love that kind of music too? That's my favorite genre. Lying. They ain't never listened to country music a day in their life, but they say because you said you like country music, they like country music. You see what I'm saying? So every time you turn around, you'll notice and you'll see that they're mirroring you. Nothing they do is consistent. They're not consistent. And then they mirror everything that you say that you do. Yes. And they got monitoring spirits. Monitoring spirits. That was something that I should have paid attention to. If you notice that you're around them or whatever, they always talking about, oh, you know, my ex be doing such and such. How you know? How you know what your ex be doing? Because they stalking them. They monitoring them. When I was in my marriage, my ex-wife used to always ask me if she could see my Facebook. I was like, sure, go ahead. Later on, I realized she was looking at her exes on my Facebook from my Facebook page. And the only reason I realized that and noticed that is because I would see in the search history that she was looking at her exes page. I was like, why was you looking at such and such page on my page? Oh, I was just checking something out. I was trying to see if they had such. No, you wasn't. You was stalking them. Just like I know that they come to this page and watch everything that I do, watch everything that I say. If I post a video and if I go back and watch that video within 5 to 10 seconds, maybe even a minute later, and I already see that that video has been shared, I already know that they have watched the video and they have shared it to somebody else. They got their noties on, baby. They got their noties on. They got their notifications on. So every time I post on my social media, they sharing it with their little team of minions. Yep. They always want to befriend you and act like they so cool with you and all this other stuff. No, baby, they stalking you. They want to see what you talking about. They want to see what you saying, what you doing. And then they lie. That was another red flag. They lie. You always going to catch them in a lie. It might be the smallest little lie. It could be like, dang, that bugged your phone. They always lying. Like you can ask them, well, did you stop by the store and grab such and such? No, I didn't go to the store today. But then you'll find a receipt in their wallet that they did go to the store today. Just lying. Do you understand me? I was in a relationship with one of my exes, and we used to go to church together. And I was in ministry at the church, and then eventually she got into ministry at the church. And so the ministry that she was in, they asked if they could have her nursing license to show and prove that she was a nurse, because they had a nursing staff that would take care of, the bishops and the pastors and all that type of stuff when they would, come to church for congresses and conferences and all that type of stuff. She goes and she pulls out her nursing degree. Baby, she pulled out that paper. She's like, babe, this is the nursing degree. I'm going to take it to the church and give it to him. I was like, oh, okay. I was like, what university that's from? She's like, oh, no, I went to such and such. Child, I looked at the thing. That thing right there said medical assistant. Medical assistant? That ain't no nurse. Just lying. Always lying. Do you understand me? Always lying. You telling me that you a nurse. Told me she was a LPN. Did she say she was an LPN or LVN? LVN. She was an LVN, a licensed vocational nurse. I said, baby, that's a medical assistance license. We lived in Georgia at the time. You only had to go to school for 6 months for that. You need to go to get an LVN. You got to go to college for 2 years at least to get an LVN. Why are you lying like that? See what I'm saying? These narcissists will do nothing but lie. They distort the truth. Do you understand me? And then they always scamming. They always scheming and scamming. That's another red flag. Okay? They always scheming and scamming. I need to make a whole new live about this. Do a whole new video about the type of scheming and scamming that they be doing. And talk about just the red flags alone. They always scheming and scam. Some's always a scheme or a scam. Always. They either buying somebody food stamps, selling they food stamps, collecting kids to get checks. Working 2 and 3 jobs or working under the table just so they don't have to pay child support, or working under the table just so they can get government assistance. Telling you, oh, I need to pay this bill. I don't have enough money for this bill. And then get the money from you. Then go to the new supply and say, you know what? I really need help with this. My wife not helping me out, blah, 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 blah. The new supply is okay with being the side chick. The new supply is cool with it because they ain't got to deal with them. Or the new supply don't even know they're a side chick. And they be like, I really need to help my son get this and this and this and that. Can you send me some money for my son? The new supply sent them some money for the son. They already done got the money from the wife. Now they got the money from the new supply. Then they call their family member. Oh, I need to do such and such. Can you spot me 50? Yeah. Now they done came up on $150. Now what they gonna do with that money? They gonna take that money and go love bomb another supply. Another supply. Not even the current supply. They going to look for another supply. They in a relationship with you, married to you, in relationship with you, living with you, or whatever. They cheating with the side chick, but they want to go love bomb the new chick, who is the new supply. Because the side chick, she old supply. They need new supply. And then don't forget, they still over here hoovering the ex. Telling the ex, I don't know why I married her. She ain't even who I thought she was going to be. I'm so unhappy. I should have stayed with you. Blah, 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 blah. I wish we could get together and have Jamba Juice sometime. I wish we can get together and talk sometime. I'm really sorry for all the things that I put you through. Lies and deceit. They not sorry for what they put you through. They telling the ex I'm sorry. They're telling the ex, I'm sorry I put you through that. I'm sorry I lied. I'm sorry I cheated. I'm sorry I did all this stuff. But they in a relationship with the wife right now, emotionally cheating with the ex and screwing. Well, I don't know if I can say that on YouTube. And they over here sleeping with the supply and trying to pursue the new supply with the money that they manipulated out of the wife and the supply and the family member. Do you see what I'm saying? All this going on, all this triangulation going on, all this manipulation going on. They telling you the ex was no good. All she ever did was lie and cheat, and you the best thing that ever happened to me, and whoop de woo 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 woo. But they telling the ex, I'm so sorry for what I did. You was the best thing that ever happened to me. I don't know why I married them. I don't even want to be with them. Then telling you, I love you. You the wife. Telling you, I love you. I want to be with you. You are everything. Yes, creating their own narrative. Creating their own narrative. I love you. I want to be with you. You everything I ever wanted. I want us to have a baby. Blah, 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 blah. But telling the ex, I don't even want to be with them. And she pregnant, trying to trap me with a baby. But they begging you to have a baby. They begging you to have a baby. You're like, oh, I'm not ready to have a baby. I think we should wait a little bit. But they begging and begging and begging. Oh, if you really love me, here they come with the manipulation. Manipulation. That's another red flag. Here they come with the manipulation. They manipulating you like, oh, I really want to be with you. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Future faking. They know they don't want to be with you for the rest of their life. They only using you. They only married you to use you. They don't want to be with you for the rest of their life. Baby, they don't even know where they're going to be tomorrow. They trying to get to the next scheme, the next scam, the next supply. In addictions, they struggle with addictions. That's another thing. All, if not all, most narcissists struggle with some type of addiction. It could either be women, it could be men, it could be rugs, it could be money, it could be new supply, admiration, new relationship energy, the NRE. It could be clothes, it can be shoes, it could be liquor, okay? It could be gambling, lying. They have an addiction to something. Do you understand? They could be gardening. It's something. They all have an addiction. And I'm not just generalizing. 9 times out of 10, people who struggle with personality disorders, today we're talking about narcissistic personality disorder, they have some type of addiction. Okay, so not only are they going to be inconsistent, that's a red flag. They're going to lie. They're going to be scheming, scamming of some kind. They're going to manipulate, triangulate, meaning they're going to play two sides to the fence. They're going to be telling you one thing, telling the ex something else, telling the new supplier something else, and the new person they're trying to bring into the clutch. Okay? That's what they're going to do. Not only that, if y'all have children together, they're going to use the kids against you. You're going to tell them, or you're going to tell the kids, oh, no, we're not having ice cream after dinner. They're going to say, here goes some ice cream. Don't tell mommy. That's what they're going to do. Because they want to be seen as the hero. They want to be seen in the light of all things great. They want to be seen as everything. Do you understand? They want to be seen as all of that. But in all actuality, they are fraud. They are a fraud. Do you realize, like, when you're in a relationship with this person, do you realize, like, when y'all go out and about, they talking to everybody, they so loving, they so kind, they giving everybody hugs and this and this and that. But then when y'all at home, they be giving you the silent treatment. They be telling the kids, go sit down somewhere. They making too much noise. They doing too much. But when y'all out and about, they just a social butterfly. They cool with everybody. Everything is great. Life is great. Everything is wonderful. But at home, they on demon time. Okay? And when you get their ass home behind closed doors, they is on demon time. They being rude. They giving the silent treatment. They putting their hands on you. They lying and sneaking and cheating. Baby, let me tell you, when I was in my marriage, my ex-wife used to love on me. Do you understand me? She was so elaborate. She was so over the top. Do you understand me? It'd be our anniversary. She take me to these beautiful places, buy me flowers, buy me gifts, buy me perfume, buy me new outfits, all this stuff, right? Take me all these nice places. We go away on trips, vacations, staycations, all this stuff, nice restaurants, everything, right? Give me these beautiful cards, writing like poetry in them about how much she loved me. I'm the best thing that ever happened to her. I'm such an amazing mother, blah, 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 blah. All these things, right? Whole time, she on the phone with the new supplies, leaving voicemails telling her how much she miss her. She really wish she could be at work today so she can hug on her and kiss on her and smell her beautiful hair with her beautiful blue eyes. Yeah. On our anniversary, can't wait to take you out on a date next week. Making plans to take the new supply on a date on our anniversary. Do you understand me? Leaving love notes and voicemails on the new supply's phone on our wedding anniversary. Do you understand me? It's just diabolical. Then take me out and do all these wonderful and nice things, but texting them, oh, I wish you was here. I miss you so much. I'll be happy when this day is over. I'm so tired of faking this. Calling and telling their family, oh my God, I'm so happy this is over with. Oh. I'd be so happy when I can get rid of her. But telling you that they want to be with you for the rest of their life. And then telling the other supply, because you know they can't never just have one supply. They still entertaining the ex. They entertaining you in the marriage. They got the new supply that they dealing with at work that they see every day, they flirting with, buying stuff for. And then they got the new supply they're trying to reel in and bring in. It's always something. Do you understand me? So that's what you're going to experience. That's what you're going to go through. And I want to make sure I tell you this before I get off. I want you to know that you did not deserve that. You did not deserve to be lied to. You didn't deserve to be cheated on. You didn't deserve to be manipulated. You didn't deserve to be abused mentally, physically, emotionally, financially. You did not deserve those things. Do you understand me? I want you to know that you are an amazing person and that God loves you and God has something amazing out there for you. And I want you to know that you will get through this. You are going to heal from this pain. You are going to be able to love again. You are going to be able to enjoy life again. You are going to come out of your depression. But you have to go through the healing stage first. You first have to be able to identify that you are in a toxic relationship. Sometimes we are in denial. Okay? Denial is a river in Egypt. Okay? And you got to get out of denial. You got to be completely honest with yourself. You have to show up and take accountability and say, you know what? Because I had to say to myself, you know what, Zuri Star? This is not the way that you envisioned your life. This is not the way that you want to live. Why are you settling for this? That's what you got to say to yourself. You got to be honest with yourself and you got to say, why am I settling for this? Okay? And once you get to a place and get to a point where you realize I'm no longer settling and I'm going to do the work and start healing myself, forgiving myself, and see myself the way God sees me, your entire life will change. I have helped so many women in the last 4 years get out of toxic relationships, toxic marriage, whether they had kids or no kids, and be able to learn how to heal, love themselves, and move on. Many of them are flourishing. They are now in new relationships, remarried. Many of them have been able to get through their custody battles, get custody of their kids, live a loving, healthy life, and heal from the trauma. I get on here to teach you guys how to get through what you are going through and know that there's a beautiful life on the other side of trauma. I'm not saying if you trust and believe in God that you're not going to go through any trials and tribulations. Yes, you're going to go through trials and tribulations. If you read the Bible, you know that Job went through trials and tribulations. He had everything taken from him and he still trusted in the Lord. And that's what you got to do. You're going to lose everything. Can you share how long it has been known narcissist is a thing? I'm in my 50s and I never heard of it. So Rosa, they have been able to trace narcissistic traits back to the early 1900s. They didn't always call it that. It was just always like, you know, different like names for it, like toxic or like you know, just things like that, or like psychosis or sociopath or psychopath. And then when they started breaking it down and like studying like the behaviors of people, then they were able to start putting names to it. Does that make sense? Because there's a ton of different personality disorders. Narcissism is not the only personality disorder. It's just usually the most known because people have started talking about it more and more and more. Does that make sense? So like before, we didn't really have social media. We didn't really have nothing but the news. So you would see things of like these people who were like serial unalivers out here kidnapping people and taking people and doing things to people. And you would see them on the news because they got arrested. You would never see like, or learn about who they were or why they did the things that they did until you later heard of a documentary, or there was a Dateline special on them. Then you start learning about, oh, they went through this childhood trauma. They used to do this to animals. They used to do this to young kids. They used to do that. And, oh, okay, and they have narcissistic traits, and that's why they did what they did, and that's why they harmed these people. And then that's when it started to become more known. But I feel like everybody is not a narcissist. Some people just toxic. Some people just toxic. But there's a lot of people out there who are actually diagnosed with narcissism. But there's a lot of people who are out there who are not diagnosed with narcissism because they won't go to therapy because there's nothing wrong with them. They're fine. Okay? They feel like they're fine. There's nothing wrong with them. Just think. I'm going to give you an example. Just think of all the women in the world who give birth to babies. And they say about 70% of women who give birth to babies experience the baby blues, which is postpartum depression, postpartum psychosis, or postpartum anxiety. I've experienced all three. There's so many women who go undiagnosed because they never realize that there's something going on. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yes, that's true, Barbara. That is true. There's so many that don't know that they have postpartum depression. Some of them are in denial, like, oh no, I'm just tired. No, I'm just anxious. No, I just have sleep deprivation. You know what I'm saying? They don't realize that they have postpartum depression. They don't realize that they're having psychotic thoughts, not only because they're not getting enough sleep, but their hormones are imbalanced, which is causing this. So just think, if there's all these millions of women in the world who are giving birth every day, and 70% of them are experiencing some type of postpartum depression, anxiety, or psychosis, but they don't realize that they're in denial. They don't know until their doctor tells them or their family members notice it around them. Just imagine how many people out there are diagnosed narcissists, but they never will get a diagnosis from a doctor because they will never get the help. Yeah, just think about that. I believe that every person in the world who has been a serial unaliver, they have some type of personality disorder. Yep, and we are left to pick up the pieces. That's true. So true. And the saddest part, yes, absolutely. Rosa said, when I grew up, I heard about toxic people, compulsive liars, but I never heard of narcs. And that was because they didn't label it as narcs yet. Like, just think about it. I grew up in the 90s. I was born in 1984, right? I grew up in the 90s, and me growing up in the 90s, there were so many people back then who were like harming people. Like, I mean, there was like so many different types of harming. Like, I live in California. In LA, we had a cult who all got together, right? In California, they all got together. There was this cult that they had in California. They all got together and decided that they were going to go be with Jesus through the stars and all this other stuff. And they decided to drink this punch. Now, the person who decided, who was the leader, that he was going to sacrifice all these people, he had some type of disorder. There's no way that he just woke. No regular normal person is going to wake up and say, I'm going to spike this Kool-Aid, and I'm going to take all these people with me and make them believe that we're all going to be with the Lord. There's no way. That person definitely has some type of disorder. You got to think about Sigmund and Freud. They started doing like studies and stuff like that back in the 1900s, early 1900s, like 1920, 1930. Sigmund Freud, doing like all these studies on mental health diagnosis. You know what I'm saying? Like they started coming, they were doing all these studies back then. In the and that's why they had those psych hospitals where they were doing like experiments on people. They were like doing all these experiments, you know, on people, and people had no idea, right? So just think about that. Just think about how there was so many people that went undiagnosed for years. And now, and just think about all the women who went undiagnosed for years, never knew that they had postpartum. I mean, I wasn't diagnosed with postpartum until my first son was 9 years old. I mean, 9 months old. My first son was 9 months old when I got diagnosed with postpartum. Isn't that crazy? 9 months. But then again, I didn't really have nobody around to be paying attention to realize and recognize that I was experiencing postpartum. So those are the things that I wanted to come on and teach you today. I know we did like a long time. We were doing story times and all this other stuff. Thank you guys so much for all of the questions. I want you to know that you can heal from narcissistic abuse. I have healed so much in the last 4 years from narcissistic abuse. I have become a lot more calmer, even as a person. Even my anxiety has gotten so much better. Because when you go through this type of trauma, you get really bad anxiety. You have a hard time trusting new people. You know what I'm saying? I have no idea, Barbara. I just know that this is something that we are dealing with in today's world, everyday life stuff. And I know that we can't change them. We can't change people, but we can change how we show up, and we can change how we deal with them. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. I want you to know that I love you and that you will get through this, and that there is so much beauty on the other side of healing. I want you to make sure that you keep showing up, don't give up, and know that you are not in this alone. I hope that you guys have an amazing day. I will see you in the next video. I will make sure to upload this live to YouTube so that you guys can go back and rewatch whatever you missed. And of course, you know, my name is Zuri Star. I am a social worker, and I have been working in mental health for over 20 years. I have my master's degree, and I am also a survivor of narcissistic abuse. I hope you guys have a blessed day. You can find me on all social handles as Healing with Zuri Star. I am on TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, and Instagram. I love you, and I will see you in the next video.